Hello and welcome to From the Be-All End, and this is the debrief post Nottingham Forest, and that was a game that, well, at the start of the game, I think you'd have said you'd be happy to take a point from a match like that, but it doesn't feel like that after that performance, and after that performance from VAR and the referee in particular. Justin, what are your feelings after that performance?
I'm absolutely devastated by that result. I thought that it was there for the taking, and I think we've been really hard done by. I thought both the VAR decisions that went against us were absolutely ridiculous. There's no way that's a deliberate handball. There's no way it's a clear and obvious error. With the sending off, those kind of tussles happen at every single corner in every single Premier League game. I don't know if you can see from the distance the camera is away from the incident how it's deemed to be violent conduct. I mean, obviously, it was a much better performance. It was a much better performance than we've seen so far. But I'm just devastated for them that they didn't come away with the 3 points, because I think they deserved it, and they've been robbed of it by a couple of one absolutely dreadful VAR intervention.
Does anyone disagree with how Justin saw those VAR decisions? I don't.
Not in any way, shape, or form. It's part of the. You almost feel like you come to the Premier League with an agenda when you're one of the smaller town clubs, and the way we left the Premier League left a bitter taste. The Burnley fans were they're singing about the Premier League's corrupt and this, that, and the other. I was just talking with the guys off screen about, if you look back at the last 3 games that our last season in the Premier League, and how they give a penalty for Spurs when nobody in the ground has a clue what it's for, and they seemingly go back about 15 phases in play to find, something from close range that's hit an arm, and it's not deliberate. Give the penalty, you lose the game. And then a few nights later at Villa, there's a similar situation in the other box, and Digne handballs it, and it's not a penalty. And you just feel that the size of the club, relates to the decision you get, and it's quite simply not. I say nobody in the ground's appealed for it. No. If it does hit his arm, which is debatable after umpteen replays, it's his bicep, exactly the same as away at the other end. In the build-up for Hudson-Odoi's unbelievable equaliser, it's his bicep. Are we going to get a goal line technology? We'll be getting like shirt sleeve technology next built into your kit. Where it tells us whether it actually hit the arm or not. It's not intentional either way. It doesn't aid his control. He's won the ball, it breaks forward, he plays it inside, and Burnley have won that game, pure and simple. They've been mugged off.
Yeah, you made a good point on the chat about if that game had been in the Championship. Burnley would.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been 2-1 and it would have finished with 11 men. You can see how it's hit his arm. You can see why they've given it. You really can. But it's extremely harsh, and it's not being given in the Championship. Really, you've got to look at it quite a few times to even give it a consideration for handball. And it's, welcome to the Premiership.
I mean, the images you've got a big screen there, Woody, to fair to you, so you might have a better view, but I haven't actually seen an image where I can see the ball against his arm.
I could see. Granted, it was half and half. If you had slightly longer sleeves, it's hit all his sleeve. That's how kind of close it is to everything, you know. But I can see how it's given. I can see how it's given.
My biggest issue is the fact that, and I think Higginbotham's right at the weekend, the Sheffield United manager, you know, he just came out all guns. I mean, we've just listened to Vinny on Sky, and he's a bit more reserved, shall we say. But for me, the defender who ends up flat on the floor doesn't appeal for handball, right? The defender knows he's made a right holics of that. He has made a right holics of trying to deal with Sander Berge and the ball. It is just ridiculous. And, you know, we were talking before we start recording. And like Chris says, you go 2-1 up, you win the game. Foster don't get sent off. That inexperience, that moment of inexperience when he's tussling, he's kind of riled by the fact that he thinks a perfectly good goal has been disallowed. You know, it is an experience. And you know, companies come out and said, we need to support him. It's a bit stupid. He's going to miss 3 games now. But it feels like we've been mugged off. You know, I think we were sloppy to start with. I thought we were terrible in possession for the first half an hour. And just as Sky, Don Goodman and the commentator were reveling in the fact that Forest had dominated. Koleosho, let's talk about Luca again. Luca time. Superb. Creates a goal for the Swiss Messi. And it looks like we're kind of right. We're there. We're in. If we're going to allow the Forest goal, because I think it's exactly the same. I think if you were to show the 2 passages of play for our second goal and the Forest goal, slowed down, you could make the case both for handball and against handball. And I think if you've given one and you've not called Rob Jones over to look at the first one, then you don't call him over to look at the second one. Darren England on VAR has been completely and utterly incompetent tonight in his reading of the rules and his application of the rules. Because if you don't let the referee see the first one, then you shouldn't let the referee see the second one. Because it is it's almost identical in where it supposedly it's the arm. Yeah. It's as simple as that. So there's no, the second, it shouldn't even be a discussion.
Why do they even go to the screen? Because I've never seen once a referee go to the screen and go against what he's getting in his ear hole.
Very rarely happens.
You go into a screen to get told by 3 guys in a truck that they've zoomed in at like the umpteen pixels, and they've found it like a millimetre of it's touched his his sleeve, and, come on, they're just finding excuses to disallow goals, and they're taking all the fun out of the game. All them Burnley fans tonight, they've paid their way and gone to Forest for the second time in a couple of weeks on a ridiculous night, Monday night, and they're celebrating because they know, in all likelihood, they've gone in front with 10 minutes or so to go, and Burnley are winning that game in all likelihood. And then a couple of minutes later, it's a bit of his arm. It's not a bit of his arm, half of his arm, half of his sleeve. Oh, come on. It's just...
And it is. I didn't realise until I left England last year, and people used to say, like, well, VAR works all right in other leagues and stuff. And I don't like it in general. I haven't liked it from the start for loads of reasons. But I didn't realise until I started watching a lot of football elsewhere that they don't overuse it like they do in England, where they go and look at every goal, almost like you say, Chris, looking for a way. Is there a way we can rule this one out?
Yeah.
It does feel like that. And they just don't do it in other leagues. In MLS, the goal, it's got to be pretty clear cut to get used, and the same in other leagues. It's just over the top. And the problem is when it comes in, there's this knock-on effect of everything that happens with VAR. And we saw that with Lyle Foster, where, he elbows the guy in the ribs, right? Like Justin says, that sort of thing happens at a lot of corners. Maybe it was a bit stronger than in a lot of other cases.
Maybe.
But as soon as he goes and does that review, it can only be a review for a potential red card. That was a yellow card at the most, a yellow card. Yeah. But he's in a position where he's got to give a red, or feel like, as a referee, to try and give him a bit of credit, he feels like if I don't give something here, I'm condoning somebody elbowing somebody in the ribs. So he therefore has no choice but to give a red card in that situation. If there was no VAR, he has a word with him, or it's a yellow card if he sees it. If he doesn't see it, well, it's just a moment. And the guy might have gone down easily as well, because he knows that when he goes down, he's going to get a VAR review. So it all plays into it, you know.
As somebody pointed out, though, he's holding Foster. So do we not review the incident that leads to the red card? Do we not review that? And is it then not a penalty if he's being held and he's trying? The answer is it's not a penalty
because there's not enough joy last year. It was such a joy last year to have no VAR.
There were a couple over the weekend where you stood there and you're waiting, and then you're going, right, we've checked whether it's offside, even though everybody in the ground knows it's not offside. We've checked whether, the goalkeeper's mum's got a fucking shopping in from Asda on time, because that's another reason to dislike. It is literally the Forest one. They checked for offside first. At no point did I think anybody was in that Forest build-up was offside.
Never entered me.
It's not even close either, is it?
It's not even close. So why are we checking for offside? And then we kind of go, we can't do something. Let's check for an handball. And at first glance, I think, there's handball. Then somebody pointed out on our WhatsApp, well, it's the sleeve. I think, Woody, you pointed out, well, it's the sleeve. Yeah, fair enough. It's the bicep. Yeah, we're allowing that. Don Goodman keeps calling it a T-shirt. That pissed me off. It's not a T-shirt. It's not a T-shirt. It's a football shirt. It's a T-shirt line. Stop banging on about the T-shirt line, Don. And it's just, it's riled me.
Let's go back to the Everton game yesterday, and we're allowing Arsenal to take half a minute over every corner, and it's the deliberate tactic, as it turns out. Whether Everton have switched off, they've scored a really well worked goal, but then they had on 4 minutes, and I think there were 7 subs made at 5 intervals, so it's 5 intervals at 30 seconds each. Plus, there's been a goal. Plus, there's been other little bits and pieces of stoppages. And Arsenal have taken half a minute at every dead ball. And he books Trafford tonight.
Yeah. With no warning.
What's the cut-off?
That was
28
ridiculous.
seconds. 28 seconds is all right, but 30's not.
Yeah. And he's booking him for time wasting, isn't he? He's booking him for time wasting, but clearly he's not time wasting, is he? He's not.
Obviously,
you're looking for options.
10 minutes in.
For options.
10 minutes in.
Just get rid of the ball.
Without a warning.
Just get rid of the ball. Yeah, get rid of the ball, give it back to the opponent and watch them score. All because you had to get rid of a football to avoid a yellow card.
They're overthinking everything, the referees. They're thinking, as I was saying about that thing where he doesn't want to send a message that an elbow in the ribs is okay, so he gives a red card that's not a red card. Same with the time-wasting decision. He thinks he's got to impose his authority on that early on or something. Well, that's very early on, isn't it?
And then they do that sort of stupid shrug they do, as if to say, well, what you're not giving me any choice about, what do you expect me to do?
It's the Mike Dean face pull. It's that kind of, you screw your face, you shrug your, and it just they're like.
We'll see, but that's Trafford's first instance. At the weekend, we'll see a tackle in first 5 minutes that's a stick-on yellow card that nobody books in first 5 minutes because it's common sense not to book someone in first 5 minutes and let the game flow, blah, blah, blah. Well, just warn him. Just say, enough of that, son. We've clocked it. Don't do it again. And
next time.
That drives me mad.
Right. What about the performance, though? Because away from that horrendous refereeing, and that feeling that Burnley got robbed, to me, that felt at times, end of second half and spells in the second half, like the Burnley of last season were re-emerging after that disappointing start. Who wants to, Woody, what were your feelings about that performance?
Well, considering I missed half of the first half, but saw the second half, like you say, the fact that we're talking about VAR and we're talking about being robbed is quite a progression, considering what we've been talking about for the past month and a bit.
Indeed.
It was a hell of a better performance. Koleosho was on fire. Fazinho is literally something else at this present moment in time. And there was an industry there with Brino being brought back into the middle. Taylor, well, we've got a left back. But there was the industry, there was the desire, there was the will, and you could have expected after those first 3 results for them to, not come out all guns blazing against the Notts Forest side that, are eighth, aren't they, after today, who have started off pretty decently. Yeah. So all told, I think it's a very solid performance. It's a shame that we won't have Foster for the next 3 games, but I think there's a lot more to be happy about than there is to be pissed off about, to be fair.
Yeah.
What I wonder is, are we taking credit for this? Because he's picked almost the side that we were kind of recommending after the Spurs game. Do you think he's listening in and taking a few tips?
It was almost exactly what we said, wasn't it? Bring Charlie Taylor in, but he probably won't do that. And then Brown will shore up the midfield, and Goodmanson gives us a little bit more solidity, and all that proved to be the case. So we're obviously football geniuses, and company listens to us to get his advice. Yeah, it's got to be.
He definitely listens in the back of his Range Rover coming in from Manchester. You can just tell. I mean, Chris suggested that Charlie Taylor was about to be given a day off on his birthday, like a lot of companies do. But we saw it, didn't we? I mean, it was them. It's not letting the winger get to the byline that Charlie's so good at. It more so than Roberts. Roberts isn't really a slide tackle defender, whereas that Taylor, that almost trademark Taylor slide tackle to stop the winger getting past him, that was a joy to watch again. And he does play a little bit like a company winger, a company fullback, didn't he? I mean,
oh yeah,
it'd been brilliant if he'd have hit that. If he's second half and hit the target. But he looked comfortable. He looked good. He looked comfortable. Delcourt, when he came on for the last few minutes for Bayer, looked decent. Looked a lot more comfortable at left centre half than playing that weird kind of inside left back type role.
Bayer looked like Bayer again.
Bayer looked like Bayer again. That front three of Foster, Amdouni. We saw Amdouni coming back over the halfway line to collect the ball as much as he could, which was good. Koleosho, absolutely superb. Really had Montiel for toast all the way through that kind of first half. Did tire, as you said, tired towards the end of the first half. Simon, I think you'd mentioned on the group, but that's what we're asking wingers to do.
Obviously, was checking.
Was on the checking the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
But everything about that performance was decent. Apart from being very sloppy in possession in that first half, first 30 minutes. Everything we'd suggested, that that pragmatism from company to kind of mix it. Fine, you can have your forward players, just give us a bit more in midfield and a bit more in defence. And everything will start to click. And, Man United at home on Saturday night under the lights, another good chance to kind of see how this team can perform against a mid-table side.
But if you think of all the sort of, if you're a neutral tonight and you're influenced by the feel of the commentary, etc., you'd have been, Burnley are under the pump here. And then you think, but, Hudson-Odoi scored an absolute worldie, and without an absolute worldie, Forest getting the game. But he's other than that, as Hudson-Odoi offered much. Gibbs-White was poor. Elanga, I think's ordinary. Had an ordinary night, and bar the opening in the first half where Bayer's caught in possession, they've not really had much of a sniff for even as sloppy as Burnley were first half out. But after that, they just took control. And again, bar a worldie completely. Well, I won't say against the run of play because they just had a little 5-minute spell of pressure. But, but for that, I said Burnley go on and win that game. And
Trafford got tested once, really, didn't he? Apart from the goal, he had that one diving save, a very good save.
I did think there were a couple of occasions where Trafford got caught under the ball and didn't quite get out and dominate like a really good goalkeeper would. There were some crosses and long throws that I thought he could have done better with. But
that's it, though. We've not been played through, have we? They've not carved us open.
No, and the big plus point for me is that even with that sort of newfound solidity that we've got through the team, we were still dangerous. You know, it wasn't. You know, Company was saying, wasn't he, that you know we're creating chances, and he'd be more worried if we weren't creating chances, and that sort of proved to be a little bit true tonight, because we did still get behind them. We still did put them under a lot of pressure, so we didn't sacrifice a lot of that sort of, you know, attacking intent for the solidity that we got. I'll say it again. It was what we were saying last week that we needed to do.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there.
Mm.
I think you make a really good point there, Justin. I think that the fear is that if you get back to basics, if you try and make it dull and kind of look for a goal on the break, then actually all the things that Company brings to Burnley, you get rid of. But actually that wasn't the case, was it? You know, we had that kind of Foster strike. We had the strike from Amdouni, which I think Turner got down really well to, because that's
Really
bottom
good
corner. That's a brilliant save from Turner. You know, them kind of in that interplay between the kind of front three, and Goodmanson. I forgot Goodmanson was playing at times, and that's not being disparaging to Goodmanson. It meant he was doing the work, going about his business, you know, tidying things up, doing what Goodmanson does, what we'd suggested on the podcast Goodmanson would do in that role. And actually, maybe that is the system. You know, definitely Brownhill. I thought Brownhill, he does make a real difference. He's got that ability to accept a pass and move it on quickly. Industrious, but he's a bit quicker than Cullen. But then when Sander Berge came on, he, you know, as you said in the group, Simon, he impacted the game, and that's where Berge comes in and impacts it when Goodmanson starts to tire a little bit. I still think you get Masengo in there, and you've got, again, another little added bonus of the lad being quite strong in the tackle and being able to turn out a possession and kind of really start to move things. But I'm really pleased for Amdouni, because I think he's looked in patches like he's, you know, potentially that first, you know, £100 million player, you know, because I think he has got all those attributes to be that kind of player. And I thought his interview this week about, you know, what he wants to be and how he wants to play was really good. And tonight I thought we saw a kind of fairly consistent Amdouni performance in terms of coming looking for the ball, like we saw on the clips before he signed, coming back over the halfway line and getting stuck in. He's not afraid to kind of, you know, get back into a defensive shape with the rest of that midfield. But yeah, a real shame for Foster that he's going to miss 3 games, because his straight line running tonight was absolutely impeccable.
Well, he had to bring that into it.
I'd love to see him up against that United defence. You know,
exactly, of course you would.
Yeah,
it's like really Rashford-esque at times, isn't it? Just that, you know, that strength in the first half. To win the ball 50 yards, 40 yards from goal. He's battled twice with 2 defenders. He's got it. And then he's had his shot, which is, you know, blocked and what have you.
A couple of times he goes deep, wins the ball back, and then he doesn't just like look to lay it off to the fullback or something. He's going off on a run, running straight at them. But he's been hugely impressive, hasn't he? He really has.
But what, like we were saying after, I think it was the first game, the City game, and we're sort of saying that can we look to get Koleosho on the half turn and, you know, get him spinning and play him in behind. And the opening goal against Spurs comes from Roberts playing him in down the left, and that instant second half where he comes short and then darts in behind, and he's absolutely murdered Montiel, who, you know, World Cup winner, who didn't know what day it was tonight, and they had to play. Well, they've had to bring another fullback on to move the fullback over to counter him, and you know, he's been, well, £2.5 million, and he couldn't get in the Espanyol first team. There's something bizarre about the whole. What on earth?
I think the Koleosho thing is interesting, isn't it? Because he's like the archetypal project player, isn't he? He's the buy him cheap, bring him on, and sell him high. I don't know. I think he might be in competition with Amdouni for being the first £100 million player, because I think he's got that sort of directness that really scares defences. There's a couple of occasions where there's a diagonal to him, and he doesn't bring it down on his chest and pass it back to the fullback. He chests it forward and chases after it.
Yeah.
And he does that instinctively without even thinking about it. His touch is not quite there yet, is it? But when he gets it right, he just puts players on the ground and finds his way through. Once he's got the experience, and how old is he now? 19, is he?
Just turned 19.
Just turned 19. When he's got the experience and he improves that touch and he gets the coaching and he's going to be some player. I mean, he's making an impact now, isn't he? But imagine what he's going to be like in 2 or 3 years with a few Premier League seasons under his belt. He's going to be, and he, like I said,
American friend was texting me during the game and saying, you know, if Greg Berhalter's watching this game now, the US coach, he's going to be saying, don't play for Italy, come and play for your homeland and all that. He's going to be making a bid for him.
Yeah.
And they've got Christian Pulisic, obviously, who plays that position for him. But I tell you what, in a year or two, if he carries on this rate of progression, he's going to be a hell of a player. I mean,
if you're Italy, you're holding on to him as well as you can, aren't you?
So quick as well. I mean, that was a big difference. Like, having that solidity back there, and you know, we can talk about bringing in Dyche era players to bring that solidity a little bit, isn't it? You know, 3 Taylor Brownhill and Goodmanson coming in, but we never had pace up front under Sean, did we? We never had anything like Koleosho as a way.
Apart from Marvin Sordell.
Yeah, Narky Wells on his moments.
Tongue in cheek.
But yeah, and then you look at the subs coming off the bench. I mean, you know, don't want to get carried away, but like to have, you know, Sanderberger come on, impact the game, do good things. Zarori comes on, should have scored probably, or should have certainly done better with that chance. But then we've not seen Benson. We've had a little spell from Trezor with a couple of really nice touches, just a couple of little moments. But, you know, suddenly, like...
Ramsey doesn't even get on, you know.
No.
Yeah. I know.
Not in the squad.
Recruitment wasn't that bad after all, eh?
No Redmond in the squad either, was there? Did Redmond miss out on the match day as well? That's the thing, isn't it? You've got all of these. No Masengo on the bench. You've got all of these players who you just kind of go, how do you fit that into 19? I was saying this to somebody at 5-a-side on Sunday. Like, how do you fit all of these players into a 19-man match day squad, keep everybody happy? Taylor's first appearance in a Premier League match day squad today, and he starts. You know, Rodriguez missed out on the first match or the first couple of matches. All these players who, you know, have got that quality, missing out on the matches.
Maybe. Yeah.
Massive, potentially. I mean, who else is there to kind of fill that role? Do you stick Amdouni further forward? Do you stick?
Can imagine that, can't you? Yeah.
Ramsey in his role? It changes the dynamic. I mean, we're not pumping long balls up to Foster, so the style of play doesn't necessarily need to change very much, but. You know, Jay against United on Saturday. You won't bet against him having a bit of fun with, you know,
he's a record against them, I think, as well.
The butcher or whatever they call Martinez, the little midget. You definitely back someone like Jay and his experience to play that system with them players providing, you know, some kind of service for him. You know, can he play the Foster role? Probably not as well as Foster does. Don't think we'd have been saying that last season. But yeah, maybe apart from a left back, which we've suddenly discovered in as reserves or as B team or whatever, maybe the transfer window weren't quite as bad as some people were making out.
He does make the whole Charlie Taylor thing still seem even weirder, really, in a way, that he comes in and the only argument against Charlie Taylor was he can't play Company's system. And every time I'm looking at my TV screen, I'm seeing him in that inverted role going into the centre of midfield, playing a short pass or a little dink over the top. He absolutely didn't play like he did under Dyche, just bombing up and down the left and everything. So I thought a big kudos to Charlie Taylor.
Absolutely, and he did
answering all the critics and doubters.
He did really well in the transition, like Andrew said. He got back there, didn't he? Nobody. He didn't get sucked in, and people got round the back of him. He makes sure the ball's safe, doesn't he? He's that kind of defender. He makes it safe.
That's your know-how, though, isn't it? 160 Premier League games, 30-year-old. You know,
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
proper athlete as well. You know, he's a fit lad. Well, it's testament to him. Like I say, he can come in having played once all season and just perform like that.
And the knock on the rest of the defence was that, you know, Conor Roberts is playing at right back, Albert Keel's playing at centre half, and it looked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it always looked solid because I still felt there was still something a little bit fragile about it to me. But
yeah, it can go from front to back quite quickly, can't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of thing happened all over the pitch. I thought Brownhill playing made Cullen a much better player than he's been shown to be
100%.
in the last few games. You know, he wasn't playing with the ball the wrong side of him much of the game. He was able to sit there and control the game a bit more. So it just felt like it had a bit of balance in it. That's how they describe it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Any other points from that game that are sort of jumping out to people? Because I think we covered a lot of ground there that was very positive. But it's still only a 1-1 draw against Forest.
It should have been a 2-1 victory.
They've won the game. End of the day.
Yeah.
We could do a Mourinho and just put his own league table up, can't we?
So yeah,
I do not recognise this. I do not recognise this draw. And it's good enough for yours, eh?
Minute 80. Yeah, no handball. Yeah, minute.
Yeah. Tweeted out. Congratulations to Vinny and boys on their first victory this season.
I think for the confidence, you know, after they've taken some beatings, haven't they? Let's put it, you know, for the confidence going through the squad, you know, they'll now start to believe a little bit that they can do it against the sides they need to do it against. I mean, if you told me this morning I'd be sat here tonight saying I was a bit disappointed, well, very disappointed that we didn't win the game, I would have been surprised. I was thinking if we get a point here, we'll be doing well. But, you know,
yeah,
we've done better than I thought we would, and a lot of positive signs. You know, the players like even like I think you said, didn't you, Sander Berger made an impact when he came on. I thought with that there were glimpses there of what he's capable of and where he should be playing and what he can do. He was like a totally different player to the one we've seen in the recent games. So the only negative for me that I'll remember about tonight's game is the negatives that the VAR brought, and it shouldn't be like that, should it? You know, it shouldn't be like that. You know, one of the great joys in football is that moment after you score a goal and you right a decade of wrongs. You know, and they've taken that joy away from us, haven't they? You can't celebrate a goal wholeheartedly anymore in the Premier League because you just, at the back of your mind, it's always, did something happen there that I didn't see? Yeah. And I agree with you, Sam. It was great last year when we didn't have this. It's great for the goal line technology. It's good to see if it went in or not. You know, that works, doesn't it? Even the offside stuff, you know, more often than not, they get that right, don't they? But these sort of ludicrous going back to see if there's something happened somewhere that they might be able to disallow the goal for. It just, I mean, it's so frustrating. And I bet not one of us thought that handball for their goal was a handball. We just went, oh yeah, that's not handball, and it was exactly the same as the one that they gave against us. It just seems so.
But there won't be a massive fuss about this one. If that happened to, you know, the big six teams, there'd be debates about it on Sky and in the papers for days to come. This will just get forgotten.
Wouldn't have been disallowed if it was a big six club.
No.
Yeah. But I've just seen a clip of the referee at the end again, exaggerating the arm movement.
He didn't even do that.
He did. You know, he's now blatantly making up his own version of what he's seen on the TV screen. If you look at it, Daz Bentley's just texted it out and just sent me a message saying, you know, here's the video, and he says, you know, the referee, when he's talking to Berger and he's talking to Craig Bellamy, his arm is moving more than Sander Berger's arm moved. So he's rewriting what he's seen on the video. So he's justifying his decision by saying to, you know, we've all got eyes, as somebody said earlier. You know, it's not handball because we've all got eyes.
Yeah.
You know,
to avoid any doubt in that situation, Sander Berge would have had to put his arm in an unnatural position.
he's
he would,
gotta raise it up.
which is what they're told they're not supposed to do. You know.
Yeah,
Crazy.
exactly.
Crazy.
And the truth is, those two decisions, the sending off and the disallowed goal, if those two had gone the other way, nobody would have been talking about it tonight.
No.
Nobody would have been talking about it after the game. The pundits on telly, they wouldn't have asked company about it. None of that would have happened, which goes to show there was no clear and obvious errors in the decision that the referee made on the field, which was that nothing happened.
Yeah.
So
a mixed night, really. Yeah, a night really encouraging performance in so many
actually,
different ways.
just before we get into this, the other thing is that referee, the PGMOL, whatever the bloody called, will probably drop him for the weekend games as an admission that he screwed up.
Yeah.
If he gets, he won't get a big game this weekend because whoever's in charge, Howard Webb or whichever ex-referee's in charge of that set of cronies now.
Webb is, yeah.
It's Webb, isn't it? Yeah.
They'll brush over that. He'll be officiating.
He'll be rested. He'll be rested for the weekend. He'll be rested for the weekend.
Be rested, yeah.
No,
not
not. It was only Burnley.
Exactly.
Only Burnley.
Yeah, we'll demand an apology. That's what we need. Start a campaign now.
Referee told me afterwards there was nothing wrong with it. said a player.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So a mixed night then, really. Obviously frustration with the officials, but a lot of encouraging things to take from Burnley's performance. Quick round now. Man of the match, Greavesy.
Foster before the sending off for me.
Chris.
Koleosho.
Justin.
Yeah. I was impressed by Amdouni. I'm going to give it him.
Woody.
Foster.
And I'll say Koleosho as well. So joint man of the match award for Foster and Koleosho from the BO end. That does us for tonight and for today, if you're listening in the morning. Please do follow us on From the B-Hole End, which is B-Hole Podcast on Twitter and Facebook, and review and like and rate and subscribe to our podcast. And we'll be back with you later this week to look ahead to Saturday's big game against Manchester United. Thanks very much for joining us. All the best and up the Clarets.
Jimmy McElroy to Watson. Go.